When we think about entrepreneurship, we usually picture someone launching a startup, but really, entrepreneurship is about making things happen and solving the problems, creating value, and turning your idea into action. Now, picture that same mindset, but inside an existing organization. That's entrepreneurship. And when employees are able to take the initiative, challenge the status quo, and innovate from within. There's no need to quit your job or build a company from scratch. It's about changing things right where you are. And for this project, I decided to explore two of Gabe Newell's, the founder of Valve, recent entrepreneurial ventures, Inkfish Expeditions and Starfish Neuroscience, to understand how entrepreneurship shows up in their organization. My big question is, how can managers build an environment where entrepreneurs thrive, where they feel empowered to take a risk, to think creatively, and grow the company? Although Gabe Newell got his start in tech and software, I was fascinated on studying the entrepreneurial ventures that went beyond just gaming. First, there's Inkfish Expeditions, which is a deep ocean research group that is using tech like the DSSV limiting factor to allow them to explore parts of the world that no one's ever seen and discover new species. Often at Gabe Newell's organizations, employees are encouraged to work with autonomy and to take their own direction within the company and trust their own skills. And Inkfish Expedition is no different. At Starfish Neuroscience, which is a company about brain-computer interfaces, which doesn't sound flashy, but their approach is really quite cutting edge. They rely on fast iteration, constant editing, and a tight collaboration across multiple disciplines, working with universities around the world. This is a real hallmark of an entrepreneurial culture. In both ventures, we see the same entrepreneurial DNA, where teams are trusted to experiment and adapt, and the work is deeply mission-driven. And innovation isn't just allowed, it is expected. I believe that both Inkfish Expeditions and Starfish Neuroscience show how Gabe Newell applies his own philosophy at Valve, where they have flat teams and no micromanagement. They give their employees the creative freedom to explore an entirely new direction. This isn't just a business venture. To look at the organizational behavior with how people work and solve problems and build something new for their future. Both of these organizations have a futurist philosophy empowered by the vision of Gabe Newell. For an example, Inkfish Expeditions aims to map the deep sea and collect new species that have never been seen before. And the scientific potential of this new venture is immense. And on the other hand, the direction that Starfish Neuroscience is taking not only has medical applications, but also has great potential to disrupt the entertainment industry. Here's an interview with Gabe Newell and a comment that he made about this topic.
A lot of our product design discussions sound like science fiction. As soon as you're doing anything with neuroscience, you're like, it's indistinguishable from science fiction now. Our ability to create experience in people's brains that are not mediated through their meat peripherals will actually be better than is possible. So you're used to experiencing the world through eyes, but eyes were created by this low-cost bidder who didn't care about failure rates and RMAs, and if it got broken, there was no way to repair anything effectively. So, it's totally makes sense from an evolutionary perspective, but is not at all, reflective of consumer preferences. So the visual experience, the visual fidelity will be able to create through, the real world will stop being the metric that we apply to the best possible visual fidelity, and instead it's the real world will seem flat, colorless, blurry compared to the experiences that you'll be able to create in people's brains. So that's sort of like a simple way in which I think most, it's like the Matrix said, and we'll create something that's like reality. And I think with BCIs, fairly quickly we'll be able to create experiences that are superior to what. But that's not where it gets weird. Where it gets weird is when who you are becomes editable through a BCI, right? So I'm feeling unmotivated today. Right now we think that that's this fundamental personality characteristic that is relatively intractable to change. And instead it'd be like, oh, I'm going to just turn up my focus right now. My mood should be this. Once you can start editing, you start having these feed forward and feedback loops in terms of who you want to be, which is a weird thing to talk about, right? I think it's an inevitable consequence of what I see happening with BCI. But I don't even have the terminology yet to explain what the problem is concisely. You just heard me go for a couple of minutes trying to sort of circle around this description, which at some point will be, oh, well, it's just a simple math equation that you can use to talk about the choices that people will be making in terms of who they decide to be when who they are is an editable thing. And then I think you'll end up in situations where the kinds of experiences that you have will be complicated choices that you make. Right now, we know the things that we like, but with BCI and with what's coming in terms of neuroscience, the experiences that you have will now be things that are created and edited for you. Like one of the early applications I expect we'll see is improved sleep, right? It's like sleep will now become an app that you run where you're gonna like, oh, I need this much sleep, I need this much REM, but it's now, rather than, I'll fluff my pillows this way and I'll take, Zolpidem to try to get myself to go to sleep. It's like, oh, I just say, this is how I want to sleep right now. And it looks like an app running on your phone rather than this complicated thing. And most people will look at that and go, that sounds pretty nice. You mean I got on this 12-hour plane and I basically said, I did not want to be awake for the next 12 hours and I wake up completely refreshed with my circadian rhythm. People say, okay, this other stuff sounds scary. My friends have all done it, and they've all told me it works well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try that.
Starfish Neuroscience could one day create new experiences for the entertainment industry, where developers could tap into a software platform, allowing to create experiences that are truly unique for one individual to the next. Now I would like to discuss the entrepreneurial traits and tools that are used across Gabe Newell's ventures, where there are certain entrepreneurial traits that consistently show up. And these same traits have been core themes across this entire course, where firstly, autonomy and flat structures by Valve, and by extension, these newer products, they run on trust, where employees aren't waiting to be told what to do. And this can cause stress, but they're encouraged to pick up their own projects, to build their own teams, and to steer their work. It's a flat, flexible, and highly empowering place to work at. And on that note, secondly, employees are encouraged to take risks. Entrepreneurs aren't reckless, and they assess risk carefully. It's just that you have to embrace it. Now, whether you're diving into uncharted waters or decoding the brain, Newell's teams are making bold moves backed by his vision and strategy. Now, thirdly, what comes up often is the feedback loops and developmental iteration. For an example, at Starfish, their development is driven by the constant feedback loops, where they're prototyping, testing, adjusting, repeating this over and over again. This mirrors how great entrepreneurs work, where they need to learn quickly and adapt fast to stay agile. And the last trend that I noticed is the sense of purpose that the employees have while working at these organizations. Where at Inkfish, it isn't just about the tech. It's about the curiosity and the global discovery of what lies beneath. That's the sort of mission that attracts the passionate, will give the entrepreneurial mind the energy and direction they need. And when you combine these traits, you'll get a team that will want to innovate and has the tools to do it. And in light of this, I would like to share some of the suggestions that Gabe Newell gave during this interview.
The people who are in their 20s, internationals, who wants to achieve success in their life, what can you recommend for them?
Well, I think at various points there have been significant technology transitions. There was pre-computer and then there was post-computer. There was pre-internet and there was post-internet. I think it's incredibly obvious that machine learning systems, AI systems, are going to profoundly impact pretty much every single business. So if I had to point to a technology transition to get in front of, it's to figure out how to use AI to do anything better. If you want to be an accountant, learn AI. If you're going to be an attorney, learn AI. If you're going to be a programmer, make sure that you know how to use the tools and are comfortable with those programming concepts. And that all seems super obvious. There are a lot of people who were incredibly successful simply because they were the first person in finance at their company to learn how to use Lotus 123, right? Everybody else was still doing accounting in traditional ways, and all this, you would look like a super genius just because you knew how to use a desktop computer and a spreadsheet, right? Similarly, around the internet, there were the companies and individuals who saw the opportunity and took advantage of those opportunities to create more value, either as an individual or as a corporation, and they zoomed ahead of everybody else. So essentially, AI is going to be a cheat code for people who want to take advantage of it.
In order to put these ideas and research into action, I created an original innovative idea, which is a fictional game concept that reflects the entrepreneurial thinking. My idea for a video game concept is Candy Core. It's a surreal, retro-style first-person shooter, which is going to pull inspiration, just like Gabe Newell, from the games Doom and Half-Life. But instead of following a similar formula, I wanted to mix a genre, the tone and mechanics, in a really unexpected way. And this is how it connects back to the original concepts we discussed. Like Inkfish, this project takes an innovative approach, trying something weird, bold, and ambitious, and breaking away from what's safe or done in the company. Also, its design process mirrors Valve's flat structure, where the artists, designers, and coders would be encouraged to collaborate freely, to pitch ideas together without waiting on any hierarchy. And like Starfish and any other game, it'll be built around feedback loops, where the game will evolve with the player in real time, which requires constant iteration and development. I hope that this creative risk will subvert industry expectations and won't chase any trends. The idea that you could mix candy, Lovecraftian horror with a crazy shoot 'em up like Doom. I would like Candy Core to be an original idea, a metaphor for how entrepreneurship can work. You start with a vision, you trust your team to explore and experiment boldly, and build something the world hasn't seen. This project gave me the chance to apply several of INTR's 2210's key learning outcomes, where I was able to analyze the entrepreneurial traits, like autonomy, adaptability, and creative risk-taking across all examples. And I was able to explore how a decentralized, flat, trust-based structure might even drive innovation. And I also learned how organizations can avoid stagnation by embracing experimentation. And I even got to apply the entrepreneurial mindset myself by designing Candy Core, which is a practical demonstration of what we've learned in this course in a creative context. What I've learned is that innovation isn't just a trendy word, it's a mindset. It's about unlocking what's inside the people that are working with you. And Gabe Newell's ventures show me what's possible when you give people autonomy, trust, and a shared vision. And this course has helped me understand how this mindset can lead to meaningful innovation, not just for the company, but for employees, industry, and maybe even society. And the future of innovation doesn't just belong to startups. It also belongs to the organization that is willing to embrace the entrepreneur. Thank you very much for watching my INTR 2210 application assignment, Entrepreneurship and Innovation in Gabe Newell's Valve, Inkfish Expeditions, and Starfish Neuroscience.